GB News gets it in the neck every day. They're constantly trying to kill them. And again, it's like Trump and Farage. GB News is an outlier. Even before it existed, there were people trying to stop it, giving birth, frankly. Talk TV seems to get away with it a little bit. Maybe it's because it's protected by Murdoch. But with GB News, they're trying desperately to get rid of it.
And an astonishing decision by the Ofcommunist government censors in Britain has somehow cleared Ed Balls for interviewing his own wife, Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, on Good Morning Britain, even though these folk are launching relentless campaigns against GB News. A relentless campaign, by the way, that saw me leave GB News because it was impossible to speak independently. But somehow the government censor thinks that it is appropriate for a major host on Good Morning Britain to interview his own wife. And by the way, this was a patsy interview, spreading chillingly and somewhat ironically the need for social media censorship. Watch.
Can I ask, because we've talked about this a few times in the last few days, like many of our viewers will have done at home since those terrible killings in Southport, there have been identifiable individuals on social media who have been inciting not just riot, but violence. They've been using racist language. They've been using falsehoods about what happened in Southport. This is happening on the social media platforms. What can be done, what should be done now by the social media companies and the police and the government to stop this happening? Because it's been happening for a week.
Well, you're right, Ed, that we have seen these things that are appearing online that are clearly criminal. That social media has put rocket boosters under the far-right extremist organisation and also some of the violence that we have seen organising some of the violence. Things that are criminal offline are also criminal online. So we also expect the police to be pursuing criminality, illegal material that is online, and to make sure that they also face the full force of the law. And there's also an issue about social media companies here. They have to take much greater responsibility for what is happening on their platforms that, frankly, they make huge amounts of money from, and therefore they need to take much greater responsibility. We're going to be pursuing that with the social media companies this week as well.
I mean, can you believe that? We've been speaking about this week. What, in bed? And then Yvette Cooper replies, "You're right, Ed." So Jasmine Birtless, my understanding, and by the way, I had to have an understanding about how the Ofcommunists operate because they do censor free speech all the time on GB News. And that is in the end the reason why I had to go, why Mark Stein had to go, why Lawrence Fox had to go, why Father Calvin Robinson had to go, because we weren't prepared to play by those rules fundamentally. But my understanding of the rules was that there always had to be challenge. That's how you could get away with it. There always had to be some sort of counter viewpoint. But there you've got a former Labour Party minister interviewing a current Labour Party frontbencher, a member of the cabinet, who he is also married to. Absolutely no dissenting views whatsoever, no challenge to Yvette Cooper, and the Ofcommunists are not even going to investigate.
No, and I think part of that is because of what they are talking about. I mean, wasn't it yesterday that Hillary Clinton said that we've got to stop people having free speech, on social media? And Kamala Harris said it. Waltz agreed. So there's a push across the world for dampening down on social media, because although there is a whole load of egregious, disgusting stuff put on every moment, certainly on social media, there is a lot of truth. And the last thing they can have, and certainly the last thing the Ofcommunists want, as you say, is truth getting through. You want to have the establishment's view, the story that we're all supposed to have. That's the only thing that can get through. So I think that's another reason why the Ofcommunists liked it. But of course, it's also because it's Labour, and anything Labour does is perfectly fine. Anything that the Conservatives or definitely Reform does is evil. End of.
Yeah, I mean, David, before the last election, or it was actually a bit before that, I think it was before the last budget, GB News was actually found in breach by Ofcom because they had Esther McVeigh and Philip Davies, a husband and wife partnership, interviewing the Chancellor at the time, Jeremy Hunt, and they were found in breach. There's two-tier regulation here, isn't there?
Well, you've hit the nail right on the head. By the way, listen to that. Listen to that conversation between Ed Balls and his missus Yvette. I was trying to work out what I found most offensive: the fact that they were interviewing each other or a content. But that's by the by. And by the way, anyway, but moving on from there.
Yes, please. But it's not something that anyone wants to visualize. But go on.
Sure, absolutely, yes, and. Indeed, when it comes to the BBC, of course, mark their own homework and they handle all complaints internally. Do you know how many complaints made it to Ofcom from BBC last year?
How many?
No.
One.
Wow.
It's ludicrous. And the bias, the bias on the BBC. So, I have been purposefully tuning in to certain shows on the BBC, Jasmine, so that I can track the bias. And this week, there was a panel on Newsnight. It was about an interview with Diane Abbott. And the panel was a former Liberal Democrat leader, Jo Swinson, and a current Labour peer, and alongside Victoria Derbyshire, who had just conducted the absolute fawning interview of Diane Abbott. They all just gushed over this woman. Now, this is a woman, yes, she is a trailblazer in lots of ways. First black female MP, you can have respect for that. She's also someone that lost the whip from the Labour Party because of out-and-out racism and anti-Semitism. But there was absolutely no pushback about this woman. Now, all I want, my ideal world, Jasmine, the Ofcommunists would not exist. The BBC would not exist. Put this all out to the market. We do not need to be patrolled by a state regulator, which is incredibly nefarious. But given we do have the rules, surely if GB News can't get away with it, then the British Bashing Corporation shouldn't be able to get away with it. Where is the balance on a panel where you've got fawning BBC Labour-lovey interviewer, Liberal Democrat former leader, and a Labour peer? There's no balance there.
No, none at all. And as you say, GB News gets it in the neck every day. They're constantly trying to kill them. And again, it's like Trump and Farage. GB News is an outlier. Even before it existed, there were people trying to stop it, giving birth, frankly. Talk TV seems to get away with it a little bit. Maybe it's because it's protected by Murdoch. But with GB News, they're trying desperately to get rid of it. And the Ofcom, as you know, was set up by Blair. And I think it's still run by Blair's cronies. And one thing, again, that Blair can't bear is free speech. And free thought. He's one who wants to have everybody jabbed with every type of vaccine or alleged vaccine combined.
And digital ID. I mean, look, the guy's terrifying.
Big time, absolutely.
Probably the thing that summed up best of all was Adam Bolton, the former chief political correspondent for Sky News, when he said that GB News and Talk TV was upsetting the delicate broadcasting ecosystem.
Yes. Basically, only giving the plebs what we think. Well, the great thing is we're all together now. This is a completely independent platform. I'm not patrolled by the Ofcommunists at all. Obviously, I do have to work within big tech regulation, which is a whole other conversation. But we can have smart, intelligent discussions without the need for that faux balance. First, though, everyday subtle changes occur in our bodies, often going unnoticed. It's called inflammagene, a chronic low-grade inflammation that deteriorates our health as we get older. It's more than just a sign of aging, though. It's a key contributor to health issues like cardiovascular diseases, dementia and depression and physical decline. It continuously weakens the body's resilience, turning minor infections severe and impacting mental health and cognitive function. Inflammagine significantly diminishes both quality of life and independence. Proper diet, exercise, and sleep can only get you so far, and that's why I take Clean Being by Verso. It contains ingredients targeted to fight off and help prevent inflammagine. Research shows that these ingredients clean out damaged cells in the body that affect healthy cells, reduce inflammation, protect against oxidative stress, and improve conditions like cardiovascular diseases and neurological disorders. After taking Clean Bean for some time, I have noticed less joint pain, increased energy, better mood, clearer skin. I can think better. I don't get sick as often. These are all benefits of reducing inflammation. Plus, as you can see, Verso ensures transparency and quality by publishing third-party testing results for each batch they produce, so you know you're getting exactly what you paid for. Click the link in the description in YouTube or Rumble, or head over to buy.ver.so and use the coupon code Outspoken at checkout to save 15% on your first order. So to repeat, www.buy.ver.so/outspoken. Use the coupon code Outspoken. Huge reaction to my interview yesterday with Bernie Spofford, the businesswoman from Chester, who was wrongfully arrested by the police for a post on X. Now, our very own superstar panelist, David Atherton, has experienced something similar, which he's going to talk about for the first time. But first, here's a reminder of what Bernie told me yesterday. This new Labour administration was trying to make an example of people, the folk who were involved in the so-called riots after the Southport massacre, and the people who were described as quote-unquote keyboard warriors. So I know there was some taunting towards you about the fact that you were going to spend a lot of time in jail, and at this point, presumably, you thought that you were going down for what, 2 or 3 years, like Julie Sweeney or Lucy Connolly or Wayne O'Rourke?
Well, you know, I'm such a big believer in democracy and in justice that I knew that because I was innocent and I hadn't done it, and that I could give them all the evidence I hadn't, that of course they weren't going to arrest me. Of course they weren't, because why would you arrest someone who hasn't actually broken the law?
So, David, you had a very disturbing and similar experience, I believe, to Bernie.
Indeed,
what can you tell us about it?
A bit of a trendsetter. This happened in April, May time, when it all kicked off. By the way, very quickly, when those 2 policemen turned up to warn me about death threats, one was caught short and desperately wanted to use the toilet upstairs. Now, I know where that was a story because he wanted to have a look around upstairs, see what kind of paintings and books they kept. Don't know, but that's speculation. But anyway, there's a tweet I sent out which had about 1 million views. It says F for Hamas, F Palestine, F Islam. And it says at the moment, if you want to complain about Israel, go and live in a Muslim country. And it's a meme, you can say it's rude and offensive, but I don't think it's illegal. When Jon Snow said "F the Tories" at Glastonbury, everyone thought it was funny. So I can't see the difference here. But anyway, the police,
and that was the post in question that the police were targeting you over. Okay,
yeah, indeed, yeah.
Saying what, that it's hate speech, or what's the argument?
They presumably. They got me in. What I think the police were trying to do was see if they could identify me as a Sam Melia type extreme right wing Hitler anti-Semitic person. Sam Melia was jailed for 2 years for putting up stickers. I've read the transcript of the judge's comments, and Sam Melia was only guilty of having had a bit of wrongthink. He did not say anything that was illegal at all. He put up stickers and sold stickers which said "White Lives Matter," and it was fairly sort of what's the word, anodyne. That's the word I'm looking for. And he also remarked on the Great Replacement as well. And the police were very insistent that I came in and see them. And I sort of put it off and ignored it and things like that. Then one day they knocked on the door. Two policemen knocked on the door. They gave me a letter, said, if you don't come in on this day, we'll arrest you. And so I went into the police station. Very, very secure area. They took all my phones and all my equipment off of me, and the detective constable sat me down, and he asked me a load of questions which I broadly commented on. What I think they were looking for, like they did with the riots, was for me to incriminate myself and say nasty things about Islam or Muslims, so they could then charge me. I still don't know what the outcome is. It was in May. That's about 4 months ago. They haven't contacted me. You never know. I might still be up in front of the magistrates or Crown Court.
A waste of time, Jasmine. Isn't this just chilling? I mean, we literally have police not turning up to robberies, burglaries, muggings, violent attacks, but they're wasting so much time patrolling tweets. And let's be honest, on the whole, it is tweets from people who are considered to be on the right or conservative.
And any far left tweets, they're perfectly acceptable. Again, we have the left-wing establishment looking after its own. And as has been mentioned on social media many times in the last couple of days, you have the difference in the sentencing of Hugh Edwards for paedophilia, effectively, which is just 6 months. Not real. It's just not real. He's not going to prison. And then somebody saying hurty words to a police dog gets a couple of years in prison. It's a ridiculous thing. And as you say, everybody complains about the fact that we have more crime and we have less policing of that crime. Even when it comes to shops and supermarkets, perfectly all right to steal stuff up to, 250 quid or something. You can go into the supermarket, steal a load of stuff, walk out, nobody's going to do anything about it. And yet, again, if you put something a bit unpleasant or a bit slightly, dodgy on Twitter, you could be in prison. It's an utter nonsense.
Yeah,
absolutely. Indeed, yeah. So no, I see. The fact you can't walk down the street anymore, and also the fact that it's unsafe for women at the moment to go out in the streets. It really is the greatest misuse of public time and public money. And they really. By the way, Paul Springfield, the guy who failed to jail Hugh Edwards. Do you remember in 2021 when Sir Chris Whitty was molested?
Yes.
Paul Springfield was the magistrate who jailed that guy for 8 weeks.
Yeah, who by the way was a kid who apparently, I don't want to speak out of turn, but apparently I think is not, has a few issues.
Autistic. He was autistic. He's autistic learning difficulties. He was molested. He was bullied. Horrible thing to do.
He just filmed a little video. Like, honestly, I mean, the fact that guy went to jail and Hugh Edwards didn't. It is mad. Well, look, thank you for explaining it, David. But it's very shocking for all of us and a lot of people who are watching who might want to be outspoken on X. It's obviously the name of my show, and the police should actually be focusing on violent crime. This is nuts. Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please do subscribe if you want lots more clips and interviews like that. Plus, if you want to watch our totally uncensored after show, then visit www.outspoken.live.